This is Alicia on Demand. I am Alicia. Welcome back to my channel where I focus on personal development and wellness. Today I'm going to be discussing returning back to the office. In January 2020, I decided for me it was going to be a good year. I mapped out a plan for exercise and getting my finances in order, and I created a long bucket list of the things that I wanted to do that year, and I was doing it. I was so proud of myself that I was capturing action photos and posting them on social media and basking in the likes. Things were getting crossed off my list, and I was just going and going and going. But deep down, my soul was tired. I was tired of being on, of telling people that I was okay, of pretending to be okay when I was not okay. I just needed time to get that way. I didn't think that I deserved a timeout. I never think I deserve a timeout. As a matter of fact, every time bad things happen, I just tend to keep going, mostly from fear. The fear of slipping into a deep, depressing hole that I can't dig myself out of. I have had painful emergency surgeries and then almost immediately returned to work. I barely took time off when my mother died, and I went through an entire marriage breakdown without taking a single solitary day to just take to the bed and cry. It's ironic that people commended me for being so strong when I wasn't practicing the proper self-care. Why do we do that? When the bomb dropped of the magnitude of the pandemic and the announcement came that we were going to have to stay in our house, I pretended to panic with everyone else, but secretly, I was thrilled. I didn't have to entertain anyone else or show up at events that I really didn't want to be at. I didn't have to put on makeup or do my hair or find a figure-flattering professional outfit that covered up my boobs. I didn't have to make small talk with fake coworkers or listen to semi-racist water cooler chat. I didn't have to bite my tongue when people at work tried to make me feel stupid. I was happy. I was relieved. And I prayed that God would give me more than 2 weeks. And then He did. I have been at home working for over a year at this point, and I realized something powerful during this traumatic quarantine. I actually had more peace. I wasn't rushing to work because work was literally downstairs. So I had more time. I found fun workouts to do online, and I started doing things to my house that I always wanted to try and see what happened. Okay, well, what happened was kind of a hot mess, but that's for another video. We'll discuss that later. In some ways, I was thriving last year. Although working from home has been an adjustment and there have been some bumps in the road with organization and scheduling, every time I hear word of a return back to the office building plan, I start feeling anxiety and panic and sadness. I have enjoyed working with just the sound of birds chirping. If I didn't want to hear what was going on in the news, I simply kept the TV off for a couple of days. And I wasn't bombarded with stuff that I didn't want to know from idle coworker chatter. I didn't have people popping up at my desk demanding my attention, which is so hard for people with ADD. And I was relieved that I didn't have to deal with the awkward Black Lives Matter discussion or hear any of the other blatantly ignorant conversations that were going to go on at the office. I didn't have to answer the questions that I don't want to talk about at work. This time away from the office has been a blessing, one that I am a little devastated is ending. The idea of going back to the building reminds me of that moment in childhood when someone shoved me into the pool to see if I could swim. It was cruel and unnecessary. I hadn't spoken about it much because I thought everyone else in the world is so anxious to return to work. And they're all talking about, I just want to get back to normal. I just want to get back to normal. When I started opening up to people and telling them how I felt, I realized I'm not alone. So many people have started researching companies that are offering permanent remote positions. Many of my friends talk about feeling free through their work's telework situation, and some of them have reported that their blood pressure is down. They feel an overall sense of calm and peace and well-being and just overall happiness. The other day, while I was deep in thought trying to figure life out, I realized why this is. Okay, come along with me. During this time, have you been to a store a little bit longer than you planned to? You slapped your mask on, which is probably mandated where you're at, and you go into that grocery store and you find yourself spending a little bit longer contemplating the difference between almond milk and cashew milk. Maybe you've lingered in the meat aisle finding the perfect marbling of beef or what kind of hot dogs to buy. Or maybe you went to the cookie aisle and you were torn between two different cookies. Well, let's face it, you probably got both of them. Anyway, after your 5-minute grocery store run turned into 25 minutes, you're at the checkout line and you're starting to feel a little bit claustrophobic, like you can't breathe because that mask has been on just a little bit too long. So you hurry up and you check out, probably self-checkout. You get out of the store and you can barely get to the point where you're away from people and you're ripping that mask off and you're breathing deep for fresh air. Each breath becomes more satisfying and you grab a lungful of air and you just inhale it in. Let it out into the atmosphere. Before COVID or any of this madness, some of us put on a mask before going to work every morning and wore that mask the majority of the day. We wore the mask of health when we were battling illnesses, the mask of okay while suffering from anxiety, the mask of bravery while secretly being terrified, the mask of calm when we were angry, the mask of self-esteem when we were made to feel worthless, and the mask of assimilation when we deep down just wanted to be ourselves. And it's been suffocating. They have all been suffocating. It's hard to breathe. Even though some of these things continue to be a part of our lives while being at home, we could take off our masks far more often and just breathe air deep into our lungs and exhale. We are not just working from home. Many of us logged out and watched the world debate if our lives even mattered. We watched constant streaming imagery of people that looked like us, like our loved ones, like our family, being gunned down in the street. And our solace was that we didn't have to get up, go into the office, and look people in the eye the next day. Organizations put out memos, encourage sympathy and compassion and flexibility to those who are living through the pandemic with their children and going through the turmoil of remote learning. Some even made jokes about too much family time, but very few of them considered those of us who spent the majority of this time completely alone. I challenge you to stop pushing the narrative that a lot of people have spent the past year working from home or remote working or teleworking, and recognize and honor the fact that many people were at home surviving trauma in a pandemic while trying to work. It is naive and presumptuous to think you can flip a switch and return to the way things were in 2019. That is unlikely to happen in most situations, and for many of us, we don't even want that. The idea of putting back on an invisible mask alongside the physical mask and walking back into the office during times where we're still living in a world of uncertainty is almost too much to conceive. If you are someone that is getting ready to return back into an office situation, ultimately, the decision makers for your organization are concerned about the organization. Very few companies have consulted licensed professionals skilled in social work or psychology or sociology or trauma when developing a return to the office plan. I encourage you to be proactive in your own self-care and well-being for your family by doing the following as the world begins to open. Ask yourself, what do you need to feel comfortable in the office? Do you need more distance between desks, an alternate work schedule, more frequent breaks, a change in the configuration of your workspace, ease of access to cleaning supplies? How many of these things can you provide for yourself if your company is unwilling or unable to accommodate your needs? Develop your family or self return to work plan. Talk to those in your home who will be impacted by your return. What needs to change in your schedule? Do you need to make accommodations for transportation, childcare, pet care? Do you need to change the time you get up in the morning? Do you need to go to bed earlier? What do your children need to be prepared for? Does there need to be a shift in some of the duties that you may have taken on during this time? And next, start or continue to practice self-care. The issues that I mentioned don't just go away because we're back in the office. Seek out professional assistance for unmanageable anxiety or depression. Stand up for yourself and inform your coworkers that you might not be in a position or want to discuss current events. You are not responsible for educating people on social issues. Google is readily accessible to everyone. Perhaps you can even encourage your coworkers to request a formal training from the organization on some of these issues. Take your lunch breaks. Step away from your desk, eat a healthy meal, take a quick walk, read, meditate, get some fresh air. These things are especially important if you're returning to an agency that requires you to wear your mask for the entire day. Although I would never suggest that you become toxically positive, try not to use your coworkers as your personal counselors or venting buddies. They are probably not equipped to soothe you. You're just delaying or missing out on getting actual help and guidance. You're going to be less productive if everyone's sitting around and griping all the time. Anxiety and negativity are contagious. And it's easy to go down a slippery slope of negativity and drive your morale and the morale of those around you further down into the toilet. Ask yourself if there are things that you can do in preparation for returning to the office. Trial runs and schedule. A modification of your daily routine. Meal prep. Outfit planning. Taking your children to their daycare center a few days in advance so you can get used to that routine and see how they are going to react with the change. Take this one day at a time. Even for the best prepared people, this is a huge transition. We are all navigating new territory. Take the time to show other people compassion, and don't be afraid to ask others for a little grace for yourself if you need it. We are all in this together. Thank you for spending your time with me. If you like the content that I provide, please hit the like button and let me know you are here. Hit subscribe and click on that notification bell so you can be notified the next time I upload. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you're doing to prepare to go back to the office. If you've already returned, let me know how it's going. As always, I'd love to hear from you.